What's going on, you guys? My name's Ty Knots and welcome to Top 5 Unknowns, 5 real ancient curses. Number 5. The Larzac tablet is a curse tablet found in 1983 in southern France, and it's now being kept in the Museum of Millau. The text on the tablet is written in Roman cursive, having been broken into 2 fragments over time. It's been dated back to around the year 100 and is considered to be the longest preserved text of its kind, containing more than 1,000 characters. The text on the tablet has never been fully deciphered, but many scholars believe that it's likely a magical curse cast by a group of women. The tablet was found inside of a tomb, which is believed by many to have been thought of as a gateway into the afterlife. The magic contained within the tablet is believed to have been very malicious, with some believing it to be Celtic, specifically from Irish mythology. Many sisterhoods with sorceresses are known to have existed around this part of the world at the time that the tablet would have been written, and because of this, the exact author of the document is unknown. The text makes mention of a witch known as a leader, with many historians saying that this is the perfect illustration to the state of the Romans around the 1st century. A woman named Severa is mentioned in the document, and she's described in many ways, being called a binding woman, a soothsayer, and also a sorceress. The victims of her curse are believed to have been a mother and a daughter, but scholars are unsure if that's a literal mother and daughter or just a metaphor. Severa has been connected to other documents from the time period as well, each of which have something to do with binding magic, somehow relating to magic weaving in Virgil, which involved 3 threads of 3 different colors representing a person's destiny. Severa is highly regarded as being a ruthless and brutal woman, dealing her victims some of the worst curses known to man. Number 4. The execration texts are an ancient Egyptian text which lists out the enemies of the pharaoh, as well as any bothersome neighbors. Execration texts don't refer to one specific set of text, but rather are the name given to a series of texts, of which over 1,000 samples have been discovered. These texts were oftentimes written on bowls or blocks of clay, which were later destroyed. After the texts were destroyed, they're believed to have released a form of sympathetic magic that would affect all of the parties involved. Fragments of the text would then be placed in the tombs near the ritual area, with the majority of these texts dating back to tensions that took place between the neighboring settlements of ancient Egypt. While each of these texts are vastly different, they each involve a target victim whose name or likeness is described or drawn onto the pot. In certain situations, military enemies have been found written on the pots, next to drawings of people who are bound. These people are sometimes given names such as family or tribe, but not always. The threats on the pots are usually pretty generalized and simply wish that negative things happen to the enemy. Think of it somewhat as sort of an ancient Egyptian death note. The idea behind these pots wasn't just entirely made up either. It dates back to Egyptian mythology, in which a story is told of a god who created the entire human race out of a potter's wheel. The lumps of clay used are thought to be metaphorical to the clay that would have been used by the gods, giving the one who holds the clay absolute control over how the person's life is molded. Around the time of the Middle Kingdom, the text had begun to spread far and wide, and many of the texts contained names of rulers and chiefs to simple messengers or even servants. Broken pieces have been found time and time again in tombs, inside of jars, sealed in a necropolis or otherwise. No one agrees upon just where this supposed magical power of the pots comes from, and the pots still remain a topic of debate amongst historians to this day. Number 3. A tablet was found in Turkey, which established the curse of a man who had very little importance to history. He wasn't a king or a pharaoh, but rather a simple grocer who specialized in selling produce. The curse calls upon the name of the God of the Old Testament, requesting affliction for a man known as Babylos, who's described as a greengrocer. The tablet has since been moved from its original location to a museum in Princeton, and was only fully translated fairly recently. Portions of the text read, "O thunder and lightning, strike and bind. Bind together Babylos the greengrocer. As you struck the chariot of Pharaoh, so strike his offensiveness." Scholars from the university have said that they've seen all sorts of curses on these tablets, but never one for someone as average as a greengrocer. They're almost always written in the names of gladiators or occupations of power. The name of the writer is never mentioned, though it appears as though this greengrocer interfered with his love life in some form or another. Though it's also been proposed that the greengrocer could have impeded on a business transaction, though all of this still remains a topic of debate. There also exists documentation saying that at the time of the curse's creation, there was a man known as Babylas who was ridiculed for his Christian beliefs. This all took place during a religious revolution of ancient Greece, and it's possible that the text could have been cursing Babylas not for his business, but rather for his religious beliefs. However, that all remains to be determined. Number 2. Sometime around the early 1960s, researchers uncovered a group of 10 lead tablets during an excavation near Sicily. The tablets dated all the way back to either the 1st or 2nd century BC, with most of them being largely unreadable. Restoration work was carried out on several of them though, and at least 4 of them are said to be curses relating to a slave named Venusta. This is a fairly common name for the time period, so it's unclear if these curses were meant for the same person or multiple people. However, it's believed that one author wrote multiple tablets from the set, so it's possible that the author had some sort of personal vendetta against Venusta. What's unfortunate is that we have no idea why Venusta was so widely disliked, but it's fairly safe to assume that whatever she did, it was quite bad. The texts read as an appeal to all of the gods to send her straight to hell, or to the underworld. According to researchers, tablets such as this would oftentimes be etched into metals such as lead, heated lightly, and then folded around herbs or hair or some sort of personal item from the victim. They would then be tossed into a large pit or pool, seen as some sort of ceremonial offering to the gods. Pits such as these were oftentimes seen as entrances or portals to the underworld, so these people certainly hoped that the gods were hearing their cries. Number 1. Back in the 1970s, excavations took place near a ceremonial site from the Middle Ages. An archaeologist found a lead tablet, which is believed to have been placed in a ceremonial pit, giving what researchers have called a priceless look into 3rd century living. Over 100 of these texts, which were heated and rolled like scrolls, have been discovered. One of the documents is said to be an appeal to the god of Mercury, requesting his vengeance against a thief, which historians say is a pretty common request amongst the texts. What's rather interesting and kind of humorous is that most of these texts would request that the victim would be unable to urinate, defecate, speak, sleep, or even stay awake until he's righted his wrongs. Most of the thieves in these documents remain unnamed, though there are certainly circumstances in which these thieves were named directly for their wrongdoings. In one example, a man claims that someone named Vitalinus stole one of his animals, and he wants Mercury to take away this man's health until he returns the animal. Another claims that a man known as Mentala stole a piece of cloth that he was going to use to make a cloak. Though Mentala isn't technically a man's name, rather it's a derogatory term similar to how we call people names to this day. It's strange to see that all those years ago, we as humans were just as immature back then as we are today. According to historians, tablets such as the one we mentioned today are believed to have been relatively common back during the eras of the Roman Empire. Citizens believed that they could have used these magic or curses to control the natural world, and nearly everyone used them. Over 1,600 of these tablets have been recovered, most of which were found all within the same general area. Many of the tablets contain events that took place within the court system, oftentimes cursing the opposing party. Historians say that the majority of these texts were produced during a fit of anger and are similar to how in modern days we would just swear at someone. They were almost exclusively part of a disagreement, a business transaction, or a love interest. And the tablets truly paint a very revealing picture into the lives of these ancient civilizations, and just how similar they were to the modern world, all things considered. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos.